Hi, my name is Nicholas. Welcome to this week's Hatha practice. For props for today, a couple hard blocks and a soft block will be handy, and then anything else you like to have. And when you're ready, I'll invite you to get started in child's pose for today, but if you'd rather start in a seat or lying down on the back, you can do that too. If you are coming to child's pose or whichever shape you're choosing, just make sure it feels comfortable for the body. And you can add in any props you like to make it feel just a little bit more restful. In child's pose, the knees can be together or apart. Arms can be extended forward or back. And if the forehead doesn't quite reach the floor, then maybe a prop to support the head. And if it feels like there's a big gap between hips and heels, maybe it would feel a little more secure to slide a prop there. And give the hips a little rock side to side, let them settle in. And give the head a gentle rock. And soften the facial expressions, soften the neck. And if you feel at all fidgety here, if you feel like you need a little more movement, then go for it. And when you're ready, come and find your stillness. And as your body finds stillness, invite the mind to start to calm as well. Find your smooth, steady breaths. That sense of expansion of space each time you inhale. And that sense of softening and grounding each time you exhale. If the mind has started to wander, bring your attention back to this space. And see if you'd benefit from a little more time in stillness, and only when you feel ready to start to move. You can extend the arms towards the top of the mat, plant the palms to the floor, and start to lift yourself up to a tabletop position. You can set yourself with hands under the shoulders, knees under the hips. If the knees are sensitive, you can add some padding. If the wrists need something a little different, you could work from a fist instead. And we'll start to flow cat-cow. So as you inhale, let the belly sag down, start to open the heart space, lift the gaze. And then as you exhale, press the hands to the floor, bring the chin towards the chest and dome the upper back. And then flow with your breath, inhaling, lengthen that front body. And exhaling to stretch out the back body. Moving your breath, your pace. If your body's asking for anything extra, feel free to add on here as well. Last few rounds here, just make sure that you're even on both sides if you did something asymmetrical. The next time you inhale, returning to your flat back, and then bring the hips back towards the heels. Come and find a kneeling shape. You can sit on your blocks here. You can also come to easy pose, swing the legs around if that's better for you. And from here, setting up for a side stretch, you can take the right hand down towards the right, reach the left arm up towards the ceiling, weigh down that left hip, take a deep inhale, and then exhale, start to arc over towards the right, any amount. Top arm can stay extended, or you can bend the elbow. Make sure you have enough space through the right side here and start to breathe into that stretch through the whole left side. Gently tone the belly. Use the bottom arm with an inhale, come on up. And then we'll set up for the second side. So left hand to the floor, right arm towards the ceiling, right hip heavy. Deep inhale. And arc over towards the left. Mirroring whatever you did on the first side, but modify if this side needs something different. Breathe into the stretch of the whole right side. Toned belly, inhale, come on up. Maybe a counter stretch to the first side or anything else you need. Give the arms a little shake out. And we'll come and find downward facing dog, so you can plant the hands to the floor and tuck the toes. Grip the mat with the finger pads, and then when you're ready, you can start to lift the knees and press the hips up and back. And take a few breaths here, setting yourself up, maybe pedaling out the legs, stretching out that back line of the legs. When you feel ready, you can come and find your stillness in the shape. You can always modify by coming to tabletop instead, or at any point you can swap out for child's pose. The hands stay actively pressing the floor away. Find the stability through the shoulders. A few deep breaths here. take a deep inhale through the nose, and then open the mouth and sigh it out. And again. Last one. Inhale, bend the knees and look forward. And with your exhale, walk the feet towards the hands and come and find your forward fold at the top of the mat. Give yourself as much of a bend to the knees as you need to make this feel comfortable for the low back. You can also have the hands to the legs and maybe have the spine in more of a halfway lift shape, or maybe hands to blocks if the floor is far away. Otherwise, if you're looking for a bind, maybe take the hands over the ears like earmuffs, adding a little weight to the skull, maybe finding a nice stretch for the upper back and neck. If you have the bind, you can release it. Inhale breath, find a halfway lift, lengthen the spine, and then sigh it out as you exhale. And again, inhale and exhale. Last one. Now inhale, halfway lift. With your exhale, step the right foot to the back of the mat and we'll come and find a high crescent lunge. Take a moment to set yourself. You can find as much distance between your two legs. Maybe take the hands to the hips and just check in with the pelvis here and see that it can feel about even side to side. So for some of us, that will mean encouraging the left hip back in space a little bit. And check in with the back foot. I like to keep the foot active here, so keeping those toes pressed to the floor. And then you can also play around with what the front foot is doing. If it needs to point in or out a little bit, find whatever feels the most natural for you. We're going to find a humble lunge here. So option to take the hands behind and you can interlace them. You can also take the hands to the hips. More supportive version, you can touch the hands down to the floor. If you need to give yourself a little bit more space, you can also take the left foot to the left. And take a deep inhale here, puff up the chest. And as you exhale, you can start to hinge your way forward. The left shoulder can land on top of or just inside the left knee. If the hands are interlaced, you could also think about reaching them up towards the ceiling. Legs stay active here, and if you lose the connection with the breath, or if you find that the breath starts to get a little shallow, maybe you want to touch one or both hands to the floor. Awesome. If the hands are interlaced, you can release the fingertips to the floor and then slowly lower the back knee down. And take a block for each hand. And if the back knee feels a little sensitive, then add the soft block underneath. Now from your low lunge, let the pelvis be heavy here. Let the front body open up. You can lift the gaze. Notice what the shoulders are doing, if they're hunched in at all. See if we can encourage the shoulder blades down the back a little bit. And sometimes more height can help with that as well. Inhale, breath, stay here. As you exhale, send the hips back and extend the left leg any amount. Inhale, come forward. And exhale back. And 5 more with your breath. Your next inhale, come forward, and then we'll pause here a little while longer. Now take the left foot towards the left edge of the mat. So think of lizard lunge, so left toes can point out to an angle here as well. And we're going to play with that same movement, but now with the leg a little wider, so just targeting the hip a little differently. Inhale, breath, open through the front body. And then exhale, breath, hips back, left leg extends. Inhale forward. And exhale back. A few more with your breath. Last one. Awesome. Inhale, come forward, and then pause. Lift the back knee up, heading towards a squat. Take an inhale, and then with a strong belly, step the right foot outside the right hand, and then start to sink the hips. Now, if you need your blocks to make yourself a seat, then go for it. If you need to slide a block under each heel to help the feet feel more grounded, then go for that. If it feels okay to lift the hands up off the floor, maybe hands to prayer here. And if the elbows are pressing the knees apart, just create enough resistance, pressing the knees back into the elbows so that you can find some stability. Tall spine, maybe chin tuck slightly. Breathe here. If the hands are together, you can lower them to the floor and then slowly start to extend the legs. Heel toe the feet a little bit closer together, and then see what you need from your forward fold. Maybe a little pedaling here. Maybe hands find the elbows and you give yourself that sway side to side. And be wherever you need to be for the next few breaths. Only when you feel ready, release the arms and hands to the legs. Inhale, halfway lift. And sigh and fold. Twice more. Last one. Inhale, halfway lift. Step the left foot to the back of the mat, setting up your high crescent lunge. And you can come up when you're ready. And this side may need to look a little different to the first, but just take a moment to find something that feels stable. Make sure that the knees, ankles, hips, everything feels comfortable with the shape. Check in with the pelvis, maybe encouraging the right hip back a little bit. And when you're ready, we'll set up to fold here. So whatever you did on the first side, if you interlaced, go for it. Just switch all the fingers by one so that it's a slightly awkward clasp. Inhale, breath, lengthen the spine. And exhale, hinge forward. This time, right shoulder on top of or just inside the right hip, maybe hands towards the ceiling. Back foot stays active. Breathe here. Notice what the front leg is doing as well. Sometimes there's a tendency to kind of shift the hips back and extend the right leg a little bit. So see if it feels okay to keep that deep bend there. If the hands are lifted, you can touch the fingers to the floor and slowly lower the back knee down. And finding your hard blocks, maybe your soft blocks, set yourself up in a low lunge, and then let the pelvis get heavy. Lift the chest, lower the shoulders. When you're ready, we'll start to flow. Inhale, breath here. And exhale, breath, hips back, front leg extends any amount. Move with your breath. Last one here. Inhale, come forward. And then start to heel toe the right foot out towards the right edge. Right toes point at whichever angle feels best for the leg. And when you're ready, we'll find that same movement. So inhale, breath, and then hips back, right leg extends. Move with your breath at your pace. Final one. Inhale, come forward, and then lift the back knee. And take a deep inhale, prepare, tone the belly. With your exhale, left foot outside the left hand, and sink the hips for a second round of squat. Again, you can use the props any way you need. Hands can be lowered or maybe hands together. Find your breath here. If it feels okay to close down the eyes, then go for it. If the eyes are closed, you can flutter them open. And from here, we'll head up to standing. So if you need to come through a forward fold first, you can do that. If you feel ready to come up from your squat, then you can start to press the feet to the floor with a toned belly, strong back. Slowly make your way all the way up. It might feel nice to reach the arms up towards the ceiling, give them a stretch, bring the feet a little closer together. If you're lightheaded, the arms can stay up. And when you're ready, you can release them down to your sides. And coming to find your mountain pose. So again, any angle with the feet that feels the most natural in your body. Maybe a slight rock front and back. Find that balance of weight between the ball of each foot and the heel. And stacking the pelvis over the feet. And the spine on top of it, the skull at the top, maybe a slight tuck of the chin towards the throat to keep the back of the neck long. And chest broad, shoulders soft, hands pointing wherever feels most natural. Maybe close down the eyes. Gently wiggle the fingers and the toes. And you can flutter your eyes back open. And from here, if you're using blocks, have one near the top edge of the mat. You can have one near the back edge of the mat just so that they're handy if and when you need them. We're going to set up for a balance pose. So if you like to be close to a wall, then go for it, and then you can step back to your mat after. If you're using blocks, then you might take your other one and just bring it kind of near the left foot, just in case you need it there, and you can always adjust the height setting as well. Lift and spread those left toes out and lower them down, maybe with a little gap in between. And then shift your weight onto the left foot, lift the right knee to center. We're going to find eagle legs here, so you can wrap the right thigh around the left and then bend into the left knee. Maybe the toes touch down, or maybe you go for the double loop here. If crossing the legs like this doesn't work, then go for more of like a curtsy, so cross ankle to ankle. And then notice where the hips are pointing. Imagine that they can point straight behind you, and find a depth that feels appropriate. If you come a little deeper, maybe the legs are working more, but maybe it's easier to balance. And then if you want to add the arms in as well, you can reach them wide. We'll take right arm, or left arm rather, underneath right, and hands can find the shoulders or continue for eagle arms. Find a steady spot to gaze at, and notice if you're holding your breath, is there something you can adjust in your shape to make the breath a little more comfortable? All right, if you have the hands in eagle, release them to prayer. Inhale breath, come on up, bring the knee with you, and then take a big step back. We'll lower the right heel to the floor, so setting up warrior two legs with the back foot pointing towards the side, the front foot pointing towards the front. Arms can reach out when you're ready, and gently sink the hips in. And check in with your stance. Notice where the shoulders are and see if you can keep them roughly on top of the hips. Gaze can be wherever feels the most comfortable. And soften anything you don't need here. Awesome. You can keep the arms extended. Slowly extend the front leg towards straight. And then with an inhale, reach forward as far as you can. And then hinge for triangle. So left hand shin, maybe to a block or even to the floor. See if you can keep that length in the spine. And then top arm maybe reaches towards the ceiling, or it can be at the right hip. Notice what the bottom shoulder is doing. Sometimes there's a tendency for it to round in. So see if you can encourage it back. Keep that space across the chest. And 3 more deep breaths here. All right, strong belly, inhale breath, come all the way up. And then point those right toes out, start to bend into the right knee, left leg stays extended. Slowly come and find your side lunge. So for your side lunge, that right heel can lift up. For some people, it feels okay to keep it lowered, or you can bring a block underneath as well. There's not like a right or wrong, just find what feels best in your body. Hands might be at a block here. Maybe hands to the floor. More challenge for balance, maybe hands come to prayer. Notice just for a moment that left knee, and if it feels like you're putting a little too much weight in it, you might imagine a slight bend to the knee as well. Find your breath, maybe a gaze point to keep you steady. If your hands are lifted, bring them to the floor. You can slowly crawl yourself into a lunge facing back towards the front. When you're ready, step forward and we'll find forward fold for a few breaths. And choose any expression of the shape. If for any reason you'd rather rest in a squat, then you can do that, or you could come straight to standing as well. And thinking about a transition towards standing, you can either come through a halfway lift or maybe bend the knees a little deeper, start to walk the hands up the legs as you slowly round all the way up to stand. And then come and find your mountain pose. If you feel a little lightheaded, you can come part way down or raise the arms up. And feel the soles of the feet connect into the floor. The crown of the head lift towards the ceiling. Maybe close down the eyes. As you find stillness here, take a moment to check in with the body and to notice your head space and to connect with your breath. And only when you feel ready to move again, wiggle the fingers and the toes, and then flutter open the eyes. If the block was handy for you before, then you can take it outside the right foot this time. Lift and spread those right toes, transfer the weight to the right, and then lift the left knee to center. Wrapping the left thigh around the right, either single or double loop. The side may need something a little different. And find a depth that feels appropriate. Notice where the pelvis is pointing. If you're adding the arms, reach wide, and this time right underneath left, hands to shoulders or forearms interlace. Steady breath, steady gaze. Last couple breaths, maybe the face can soften. If you have eagle arms, collapse the hands to prayer. Inhale breath, come on up, lift the left knee with you. And then big step back with the left foot, spin the heel to the floor, and we'll set up warrior two. Right foot points forward, left foot to the left. Arms can reach wide. Notice where your shoulders are relative to the hips. Notice sometimes there's a tendency to stick the bum back in this pose. If you find that happening, maybe a slight hug of the pubic bone towards the belly button. And keeping the arms as they are, slowly press the front leg towards straight. And keep the feet anchoring you. Inhale breath, reach forward. And then hinge for triangle. Right hand shin block floor, left hand hip or ceiling. Keep that length going, tailbone to crown. Keep your feet anchoring you in space. Notice what the shoulders are doing. Keep that space across the chest. And maybe without looking at your left hand, see if you can notice where it is in space. See if you can imagine stacking it directly on top of the right hand. And then with the strong belly and the feet pressing down, inhale breath, come all the way up. And then turn the left toes out a little bit, start to bend into the left knee as you come and find your side lunge on the second side. This side might feel different, it might need something a little different. Again, you can use your blocks any way that you need. Make sure that that right knee isn't hyperextending. Hands to blocks, floor, maybe hands to prayer, challenging balance. Whatever your shape looks like, keep breathing deeply. If the hands are lifted, bring them to the floor, and you can start to walk yourself into a lunge facing the front. Stepping forward, find your forward fold. Take just a few breaths here, stretch out the legs any way you need. Awesome. And then when you're ready with the hands to the floor, step the feet back and come and find your downward facing dog. We're going to rest for about 8 breaths, so you can choose to rest in down dog. If you'd rather drop the knees and find child's pose, then choose that. If what you need most of all is a little movement, then feel free to flow if that's part of your practice. Or maybe drop the knees for some cat-cow. Awesome. From your downward facing dog, as you're ready, with an inhale, lift the left leg up behind you. As you exhale, bring the left knee just behind the left wrist, right foot over towards the right, and we'll set up for pigeon pose. If you know pigeon pose doesn't work for you, feel free to take thread the needle on the back. You might start to guide that right knee a little further back in space. I like to take my soft block underneath the left hip. I find it helps me from leaning over to the side too much. And then find an angle for that left shin that feels good here. So for me, it's at a slight angle with the foot being further down than the knee. For some people, they'll be level. So do whatever feels best in your body. Make sure it's a pain-free expression. And then just checking here, you might even walk the hands a little closer to help balance out the hips. Make sure that they're roughly in line with each other. And then when you're ready, you could think about folding. So perhaps walking the hands forward in space, maybe pausing on the elbows, or if the floor is far away, you can do elbows on your block instead. If you have space that you want to lower the chest down towards the floor, then go for it. Make sure that the forehead feels supported. Even here, if you're not quite ready for stillness, if it would feel good to give the hips a gentle sway or the forehead a rock, then go for it. And when you're ready, settle the body in. And find your breath. And be with the shape. If you need a little more time here, you're welcome to stay. If you feel ready to come up, you can slowly start to walk the hands back in and tuck the back toes under, bring that back knee a little bit closer. And when you're ready, you can release the left leg out from under you. Come to a tabletop, and then we'll lift the left leg up and take a few circles with that knee in either direction. It might feel nice to extend the leg behind you, even to lift it up. Give that leg a stretch, however feels best here. When you're ready, you can come and find downward facing dog, and we'll set that up for the second side. And from your down dog, inhale, lift the right leg up, and then right knee behind the right wrist, right foot over to the left. Lowering the back knee, shifting it back in space. Check in for this side, see how it feels. Adding your props, adjusting your angles, make sure everything feels settled here. You can walk the hands in a little bit, stacking the weight on top of the pelvis to help settle it. And then you can start to release into a fold, either mirroring what you did on the first side, or if this side needs something different, then listen to your body. And settling into your shape as you feel ready. Slowly start to walk the hands back in. Lift the back knee and shift it forward, and releasing to a tabletop position. And then we'll lift that right leg up, maybe a few circles, bend and extend, see what feels like a nice release. Coming to your tabletop position. Awesome. And from your tabletop, we'll lower all the way down to the belly. Walk your elbows underneath you, and we'll set up for Sphinx pose. You might take the elbows underneath the shoulders. You could shift them a little bit further forward if you need a little bit less of a back bend. If the pelvis needs something, you could add a blanket underneath it if it feels kind of uncomfortable here. And then see where you need to be. If you want more sensation, you could also bring elbows or props underneath the elbows to lift yourself a little higher up. See what the spine needs here, see what the neck needs, maybe choosing to keep the chin tucked in to keep the back of the neck long. Another option is to take it to seal pose. So for that, you'll have the hands to the floor and you can press them to extend. Finding a deeper expression, option to bend the knees here from either expression as well. Find your breath wherever you are. Make sure it feels pain-free. awesome. If you need more time here, you can stay. Otherwise, if the legs are lifted, you can lower. If the elbows are lifted, lower. And slowly, you can lower the rest of the body to the floor. Notice where your soft block is, and whichever side it's on, see if you can slide that knee up and place it on the block. So soft block underneath, in my case, the right knee, and then sliding that right knee up as high as you like up the mat, maybe a little further out. Maybe the foot is closer to the body, almost like a tree pose, or further away. See what the hips like here. Maybe a little rock side to side, or stillness. Whichever knee is bent up, you can slowly start to extend that leg back to join the other. If you use the soft block, then take it over to your second side. I'm placing the other knee on the block now and sliding it up to wherever feels best in the body. Adjusting the left foot closer, further away. And finding your stillness when you're ready. And re-extending your bent leg. And when you're ready, you can flip yourself onto your back any way you like to get there. Just notice where your hard blocks are, and you might just choose to keep one nearby in case you need it. We'll set up for a twist here. You can shift the hips over to the left a few inches, extend the right leg long down the mat, and then start to guide that left knee across the body, and you might bring a block underneath it. You might have the left foot anchored on the right leg somewhere. Make sure that the back feels grounded to the floor. You can also add a soft block under maybe the left shoulder if it needs help grounding. The right hand can stay at the left knee, or you can take it to a T. Left arm out, maybe up to the floor overhead. See what feels best. And gaze can be wherever you like. If you like to twist into the neck, then you might take the gaze down towards the left. Let the body settle in here and find your breath. And lifting the head to center if it's to the side, and slowly releasing the left leg back across the body. Let's scoot the hips to midline, and we'll set up for the second side. So hips over to the right now, left leg can extend, maybe a block over to the right. You can start to guide the right knee across the body over towards the left. Maybe hand stays anchoring the knee, adjust the shoulders so that they're on the floor, and you can mirror whatever you did on the first side with that right arm. The option to take the gaze down towards the right. Returning the head to center, and then returning the legs, the hips to center. You're welcome to pause here for a few breaths, maybe feet wide, knees together. Otherwise, if you feel ready, bring the knees into the chest, wrap the arms around the shins, and then give yourself a hug and a rock side to side. You can stay with this or take it to happy baby. Separate the knees and reach between them now, catching hold of the feet or the ankles, the shins. Feet can come like they're standing on the ceiling. Notice the low back. If it's lifted up off the floor, then you might prioritize keeping that grounded over where the feet are pointing, just so that the low back can feel supported. The stillness, maybe a rock side to side, or any other movement you need here. Gently releasing the feet down towards the floor. We're going to head towards Shavasana so you can see what kind of shape you want here. Any comfortable symmetrical pose, so whether it's on the back or the front, it could be child's pose or a seated meditation. Be wherever you need to be. I'm going to set up a butterfly shape, reclined butterfly. So if you want to join me for that, then you might take a block on either side, bring the soles of the feet together and let the knees open wide. You can pad the hips wherever you need them. Hands can be on the body or anywhere beside it. Maybe hands on the pelvis might feel grounding if you're in butterfly. If you need to make any other adjustments for your space or your clothing, then you can do that now. And if there's anything that you could adjust to make your shape feel just a little more comfortable, you might make that adjustment. And setting up, finding your stillness as you're ready. letting the body get heavy, letting the breath soften to its natural inhale and exhale, inviting the mind to quiet and find your rest. And gently bring your attention back to this space, deepening the breath to reawaken the body. You can reach down and gently guide the knees back together, maybe taking the feet wide, resting the knees for a few moments. Maybe a windshield wiper side to side. And then maybe extending the legs long down the mat, reaching the arms up overhead. Give yourself a full body stretch. And then roll down to one side, wherever you have the most space. You can pause for a breath or two, or when you're ready, come on up and come and find any comfortable seated position. You can use any of the props that you have around. Take a moment to settle the hips, to lengthen the spine, to soften the shoulders, maybe to tuck the chin. And from this place of stillness, take a scan through the body just to notice. And when you're ready, you can connect the hands in at the heart and maybe bow the chin in towards the chest. And thank you for sharing your breath in your practice today. Namaste. And thank you for sharing your yoga practice today. And my name is Nicholas. If you have any questions, please reach out and enjoy the rest of your week.